Welcome to this evening's In Focus on Whitewater Community Television, WGTV Channel 11. I'm Eric Marsh, Executive Director of WCTV, and very glad you're able to join us for what I hope will be a very interesting conversation. We are obviously not in the Whitewater Community Television studios. We are on the road today. Before I tell you the where and why we're here and get into our conversation, I want to remind you voter registration continues. That doesn't end until April 8th, so you still have over a month. I know there is only one contested race in the primary, but just assume you're planning ahead of time and you want to get this done for the general election. So go out, get yourself registered to vote. The voter registration office is at 301 East Main Street, open Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 4:30. You can check your voter status online. IndianaVoters.com is the place to go. You can do it on your smartphone, you can do it on your computer, or again, if you want to do these kind of things in person because you don't trust the internet, you can go to the voter registration office to get yourself registered to vote. Some nice folks down there would be more than happy to help you out. We are, as I mentioned, on the road. We are at Rock Solid Ministries in Richmond on East Main Street. I am with Pastor David Eales. How are you today?
I'm doing great. How are you, Eric?
I'm doing well.
Good.
Thank you for allowing us to come in and have a conversation.
No problem.
This is, and we're going to go back. There obviously, Rock Solid has just gone through a waiting game. You got some good news a few weeks ago about a building that you have,
just
and we're going to bring that back in, but that's not where we're going to start. Okay. We're going to go back, get a little bit of background on you, Rock Solid Ministry, how it started. You were telling me this is your 20th year coming up.
Yes.
Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Give us a little bit about you. Who are you? Who's David Eales?
I'm just a person from Richmond. I was born and raised here, and I went to Richmond High School. Left town for a couple of years, went to Houston, lived down there for a little bit. In fact, that's where I got saved, became a Christian in Houston, came back here. God led me back here, and really felt like I needed to get more active in the ministry when I got back into town. Had been working for years at different places. I mean, I've worked in factories all my life. And then here just about 23, 24 years ago, God called me into more of a defined ministry role. And at the time I was going to First Assembly of God and started working on getting my credentials, and finally got my credentials. And I was working with a man named Tom Kelly. He's passed away, good friend of mine, wonderful man, very talented man. And him and I were going up to the jail every Friday and having a service up there for the guys up on C6. We'd done that for years together. And it was Friday night. One Friday night, we were coming down the elevator, and he said, "Have you ever thought of starting a church?" And that's the last thing in Richmond needs is another church. He said, "No, not just any church." He said, "A place where these guys that come out of jail and the ladies that come out of jail feel comfortable. You know, they can feel comfortable, not worry about how they dress or how they look or if they have tattoos or not." I said, "No, I hadn't thought about that." He said, "Well, why don't you think about that?" So I started praying about it. And him and his wife and me and my wife, all four of us, started having meetings about it. And eventually, we started having services. So we started in July of 1999 at his house. And I think our first service had 6 people, so there was only 2 visitors. Because it was me and my wife, him and his wife, and 2 visitors.
That's a start, though.
Well, the next week we had 12, and the next week we had 25.
Wow.
And the next week, after 4 weeks, they were sitting out on the front porch and hanging out the back door. So we decided, we have to move. We can't stay in his house anymore. And we started looking for places, and we ended up finding in what used to be the old Burt Sewing Center, which is actually directly across the street from where we are now. And that was in late 1999, and we started having services over there. So, I mean, as far as me, I've worked in factories. I've had repair businesses, appliance repair businesses. I'm a jack of all trades and a master of none. I've done a little bit of everything. So, but this has always been my town, and I love Richmond. I love Wayne County. I mean, I just love it here. So,
how did you go from one side of the street to the other with obviously more room, I assume?
I was sharing a little bit of that with you a little while ago. We were over there for about 1.5 years. We'd signed a 2-year lease with a man, and the man that we signed with had sold the building prior to the lease being up, and he sold it to a bar owner that was on the end of the building. And it was really bothering me to give the rent money to someone who owned a bar. It was just bothering me because I was trying to minister to the alcoholics. So me and Tom both started looking for another location somewhere downtown. And every time we tried to bid on one or find just the perfect one, somebody else bid on it, or it wasn't for sale anymore. There was always something that happened. And one day, it was just before 9/11. It was just a few days before it. I was standing in the doorway across the street and just praying, God, you're going to have to just show me the building you want us to be in if you want us to continue. I guess you'll just have to put it right in front of my face. And not realizing this was right in front of my face. And I found a phone number on the door of this building, didn't know what it was about. It just said that Richmond Electric had merged with Kirby Risk up on north end of town, and that for information, call this number. So I ended up calling and met with a very neat guy named Rick, and he come up here and showed us the building, and he said, you're going to buy this building. I said, is it for sale? He said, well, no, it's not for sale. He said, the man who owns this building will only sell it to you. Because I told him several months ago, he said, I told him several months ago that you were going to buy it. He said, I don't know why I said that, but I just really felt like you would. So they gave me a really good price for this building I couldn't refuse. And I mean, this building's like, it's about 6 to 7 times the size of the building we were in. Mm-hmm. It's a 3-story building, and it's massive compared to where we were. So God had led us into something much bigger than what I expected. And by that time, the congregation was up in the 50s and 60s, and we were drawing people in where we had started targeting guys and gals coming out of the jail system. We were drawing more of people that were just hurting, people that didn't have anything, that were poor, that didn't have any food. So the very first service we had a meal. That was at Tom's house, and that just continued. Every Sunday after service, we would always have a meal over there, over here. And I had learned not too long after we moved over here that there was a free meal in town around noon, 6 days a week. The only day there wasn't was Sunday. So we ended up being the Sunday meal, and we've done that ever since 1999. So we've had that meal.
Why the name?
Well, that's an interesting question. Before we started, when both me and my wife and Tom and his wife were meeting, I think we were in a restaurant, we were trying to come up with a name. And Rock Solid just stuck because the guys and gals coming out of incarceration, their lives are so much of an upheaval. They're in transit. Their lives just need something firm to build on, and we figured that would be Christ. And my first suggestion was Rock Bottom Ministries, and my wife didn't like that one.
Okay, she didn't like it. It's gone.
Well, I mean, to be honest with you, now that I think about it, well, what was I thinking? Because I was thinking people that would come would be people that were on the rock bottom, and she was actually one. My wife has the credit. She's actually the one that suggested, well, what about Rock Solid Ministries? And I like that, so that stuck, and that's what it's been ever since. Not Solid Rock. A lot of people get that mixed up. I said, no, the rock always comes first. There is a Solid Rock church that has a church over in Ohio that we're not connected with in any way, shape, or form. So we are our own entity. That's the name.
You've got a lot of room here. What
Yes.
all is in this? You were saying this is 3 times what you had. And knowing you didn't just move everything across the street and let it be.
No.
You've continued to expand this out. So I'm going to ask you a couple of things.
Okay.
What made you decide to start a clinic, and how did you handle the pushback that you got on that? Because there was pushback.
There was. It was actually, there was a couple of reasons, but there was a singular event, and this was when we were still on the other side of the street. I had stayed, after Sunday service, we'd had our meal, and I had stayed a little later than normal, and I was leaving out the back door, and it was probably about 2:30, 3 o'clock in the afternoon Sunday. And I saw, all I could see was somebody's legs sticking out of the dumpster behind our church, wiggling, and I walked over there, and when his head came up out of the dumpster, I recognized who it was. It was a guy that had just been there, that had ate there, and he was a homeless man that I knew. And I said, his name's Dave, and I said, Dave, what are you doing? What are you looking for? He said, supper. I said, supper? He said, well, yeah. He said, can you live on 1 meal a day? And I thought about that, and I thought, well, no. And that's where the second meal come from on Tuesday. But the same man, several weeks after that, he was mopping our floors. He would stay over and mop our floors. And I came through the dining room, and he was laying on his stomach on the floor, wiping it with a rag. And I said, "What are you doing?" And I helped him up. He said, "I haven't went to the bathroom for several days, and I'm in so much pain." I said, "Well, then you need to go to the hospital." He said, "I can't go to the hospital. I don't have any insurance. I can't go there. I don't even have an address. I can't go anywhere if you don't have an address." And so we ran him out to the hospital, and right then my wife, who at the time was an RN, just really got the bug for, we need to help folks that fall through the cracks, and like him. Mm-hmm. And we never had any intention, and we still don't, of competing with anyone. And I had several discussions with, you're talking about the Wayne County Clinic, about the folks that they can't see or for whatever reason won't see. Mm-hmm. And we did have some pushback from different places. One of them was the clinic. But I made a statement to them, excuse me, and to some other folks, and I said, well, if we open the clinic and no one shows up, then you must be right, and we'll just close it back down. But if one person shows up that can't be seen, won't be seen, or needs to be seen, we're going to see them, and we're going to treat them. And so we opened that up in July of 2009, the Siloam Health and Wellness Center, and it's been open now for 10 years. And we've seen more than 2,000 people. We've bought more than $7,000 worth of scripts for those people. We've seen some, most of what we see back there is, in the clinic, I say back there, it's at the back of the building. Most of what we see back there is, things you would normally see in a doctor's office, flu and colds and sprains. But we have seen some catastrophic things that we've had to try to get them coverage for. We have a wonderful lady that works out at Reed now that's been coming for several years that helps them find insurance, because we can't be a primary care physician, we're just immediate care.
Right.
And so it's been, we have all volunteer doctors, we have everybody's volunteer back there. And they're just a neat bunch of people. They're some of the best physicians in Wayne County that work back there. So, and nurse practitioners and nurses. I can't say enough about the staff at the clinic. They're just wonderful. They come here many of them after they put in a full day's work, and they come here in the evening because the clinic's open in the evening on Tuesday. And they put in another 2 or 3, 4 hours, and they just love it back there. So, but that's how the clinic started, and that's also how the second meal. It was just from that one man. It was from Dave, and I still see Dave every now and then. He's doing better now, but it was from him. But there's a lot of more Daves out there. So as we have found, that people just need help. So
it's 1 day a week.
It's 1 day a week. Tuesday it opens up.
It's always been just 1 day a week.
Yeah,
it?
we just don't. We can't get enough volunteers to rotate to be able to do more than 1 day a week. And we see between, we may have a Tuesday that we see 3, 4 people, and then another one after that we'll see 12. So I think last week we saw 10. It just varies. But what has amazed me is I have a checkbox on the sign-in sheet where people sign in when they come in that says, have you been here before, yes or no? And even last week, every week, there's always folks that still check no. They've never been here before. And because we don't really advertise it, there's probably a lot of people don't even know it's back there. Right. I've talked to pastors that have been pastors in churches for decades here, and I tell them we have a free clinic, and they say, you do? And I said, yeah, it's in the back of the church. It's been there for 10 years. It's not really for them. It's for mainly, it fits right into the folks that come in for the meal, because that's who it's for. It's for people that can't afford it. It's for people that, maybe they have insurance, but they can't afford the copay, and they get sick. So, if they have to be seen, they think they got the flu or they pulled a muscle, they can come here. So that's what it's for. And we also pray for them. So that's the other part of it that we do that's more important. But,
is your mobile unit an expansion of the clinic or something different?
No. It's the Dr. Roy Hunneman Mobile Medical Unit. We just actually received that the same year we received the building next door that I'm sure you're going to ask about in a minute. Last year, and we had fixed it up to take that same philosophy of free health care out to the little towns around Richmond. Mm-hmm. And we tried it out last year, and last year was mostly just trying to get the bugs worked out of it, because it's a 21-year-old motorhome that we've converted into a doctor's office. So it's got some bugs, but we've worked most of them out. And this year I'm trying to make some plans. In fact, I was just on the phone yesterday talking to some providers and some nurses, making sure they're still on board with us that would go out with it. And our issue, and I hope this helps, but our biggest issue is trying to connect the dots to let people know we have it, because Wayne County's never had a medical mobile unit, number one. Number two, this one's free. And number three, I know there are people out there that need it because people come to our clinic.
Sure.
But demographically, about 70 to 80% of the people that come to our clinic are within about 2 or 3 miles of this building, which means most of them probably walk here. That tells me there's a lot more of them outside of that probably have a same or a similar need, but they don't know about it. So trying to get word as to, first of all, because it's mobile, where is it going to be on this particular Saturday? Because it's going to be on Saturdays. That's the only time I can get volunteers for it. So where is it going to be? And then get those people in that area of where it's going to be information as to what it is. And what it is it's a free medical mobile unit that offers wellness checks. So if you just want your blood pressure checked or your blood glucose checked, you can come by and it's free to get that checked. Or if you're sick, for illness checks. Or if you just want some medical information, you want more information about heart disease, or you want information about stomach cancer or whatever. We're going to try to have some pamphlets on board about a little bit of everything so you can get some information. So that'll get rolled out more and more as we get more folks aware of the fact that, hey, this is something new. You've never seen this before. We had a nice open house out at the hospital last year with it, and had a lot of folks come out of the hospital come look at it. So it's not pretty, but it's very functional. So we're hoping it does some good, just like I believe the clinic has done some good. So yeah, it is a part of the Siloam Clinic.
It's kind of in mothballs for the winter.
Yes.
When do you expect to roll it out
I
this spring
hope
or
in
summer?
April.
Okay.
Hope to have, trying to get the staffing lined out right now, and we've got it at a property right now. It's just been sitting there since November, and we're going to roll it back in here. It's 30 foot long, so it's very large. It just barely fits in our parking lot. just clears the alley. But we'll roll it back in here probably in March and start. We winterized it, so we have to flush the water system out and get it ready, just like a motorhome you would if you were going out on a trip. And get it all ready, get it stocked back up with the supplies that it's going to need, and hopefully we can hope to start in April. I would like to connect with folks that are in charge of the Wayne County Fair and have it there during the fair, the week of the fair. We could have cold water there. We could have at least nursing on site to do some checks if folks, get overheated or whatever.
Sure.
So that would be nice if I could get a hold of whoever's in charge of that. And I even have plans, this is in the future, but I'd like to have it set up as a disaster relief unit, that if there is a disaster, natural disaster within, say, 100 miles of here, or we'll pick a number, 50, 100 miles, whatever. Like we had a terrible tornado in southwestern Indiana not too long ago, that we could have a unit of people that we can mobilize within 12 hours and get them down there or wherever it is on site to try to offer as much assistance as we can. So I got, because it's a mobile unit, it was a motorhome, so it's designed to travel. I'd like to take it, I don't want to just keep it in Wayne County. I'd like to take it outside of that if I can.
You're watching In Focus on Whitewater Community Television's WGTV Channel 11. We are at Rock Solid Ministries on East Main, speaking with Pastor David Eales, getting a lot of great information. What's Petra Project?
Petra Project is a not-for-profit Christian organization that I created back in 2001 when we moved over here.
Partly, what happened when you moved across the street?
Yeah, well, when I was walking around this building one day, and there wasn't anybody else here, it was empty and it was still a mess. I was just overwhelmed. I thought, my God, what are you doing to me? What are we supposed to do with all this? And how in the world am I supposed to support this? You know who comes to my church. These folks, I believe, tithe, but even their tithe is barely enough to pay the utilities. So how are we going to do this? And God just really put it on my heart that I need to have a separate organization that all it does, it doesn't try to proselyte people into the church. All it does is look into the community, and where there's a hole and there's a need, try to fill that hole. So identify the need. If there's somebody else already trying their best to fill that need but are struggling, try to help support them. Or if nobody's filling it, then try to fill it.
Give me a couple of examples.
Well, the second meal on Tuesday night was one. Like I told you, the man who told me, I can't live on one meal a day. Well, no, I can't either. So I thought, well, that's right. There is only one meal a day, so let's start an evening meal. Well, our church couldn't afford to do it, so what Petra Project did is they solicited other churches that are outside of the inner city area. Hey, you want to come and do some mission work? Come in here, bring your food, bring your workers with you, use our kitchen and prepare the food, and you can serve the food. And so I figured if I could get 4 or 5 churches, I could rotate them every week, and we can have a Tuesday meal. And my hope at that time, that was the only evening meal in Richmond. My hope at that time had been that other churches in this downtown area would see that and do likewise on another evening. I always wanted to see at least 3 or 4 evenings. That way you got 3 or 4 days a week, folks can get 2 free meals a day. Hot meals. Mm-hmm. And there have been a few. Harvest House is one. There's been some other ministries that have kicked in and are doing some evening meals, which praise God for them. I'm so thankful for them. And these other churches and organizations, Circle U, there's so many great organizations. Richmond is blessed with just a lot of great organizations that do a lot of work. And they're just like we are. They're just doing it because it needs to be done. But Petra Project was an organization I started. It's a separate 501c3 organization. Its accounting system is totally separate from the church. So when people give money to Breadbasket, even though it's served in this building, Petra Project manages the money and supplies the funding for Breadbasket. When they give to the Siloam Clinic, it goes to Petra Project. Petra Project uses the money to fund and buy supplies or whatever we need in the clinic. So it'll be the same thing with the shelter, which you haven't asked about yet, but Petra Project will also manage the shelter. So all Petra Project does is tries to fill, that's why the women's shelter does fit into our philosophy for Petra, because it is a whole. And if we can, we always knew it was a need, Petra did, and I'm the director on the board of Petra, and we always identified it as a need right up at the top of the list, but we never had the wherewithal to be able to, where are we going to put it and how are we going to manage it. So if anybody else had started it, we would have tried to help support it financially, but that didn't happen that way. So
You've gone there a couple of times.
Yeah.
Let's go there.
Okay.
Finally, you've got.
So you're going to blame it on me. I got you.
after
These folks don't know you like I know you. So, okay, sorry. Strike that. Cut that out.
After waiting for a number of months, you have gotten permission to go into a building that was given to you, donated to you.
Right.
To open a women's shelter. Now, there's something that you got this building because you were telling me beforehand that you had always said to this person, Richmond needs a women's shelter. So you got gifted with a space. Now, go ahead and you tell the story as to how you got there.
There's a gentleman that several years ago had stopped by our church and had seen what we did, and he's a gentleman that has some means, and he was just very in line with what we do, especially the meal, and he started helping financially with our meals. And every year he would donate money towards our meals, and it got to where it was very nice to have that money because we could expand some things in the meal program we wasn't able to do. Mm-hmm. He came by year before last, I guess now, it was in 2017, it was in November, or it was in October. He wanted to take me to lunch. So I said, okay, we'll go to lunch. So we went to lunch and we were driving around, and he was asking me, well, he's from this area. He don't live here now, but he grew up here, lived here all his life. What does Richmond need? What's some of the things that some of the folks you serve need? And of course I said, well, we have a men's shelter, Hope House, and we have a shelter for battered women that's been around for, wonderful Genesis, been around for a long time, does a great work. Mm-hmm. And we have some places women can go if they have a drug addiction and they're homeless. But if you're just a homeless woman, which I don't like to put it that way, but you're displaced, you don't have any place to go. Right. You have children. There's no place we can put you. And we encounter those people practically every month here, and we have to try to figure out what to do with them, because we can't. Putting them up in a motel is not the answer, because what are you going to do tomorrow night? Sure. So we have to try to either get them to another location like Indianapolis or Dayton where there is a shelter, because we can't just walk away from them. Well, he said, oh, okay. So then he asked a few more questions, and that conversation just died out. Well, then I think it was just like the week after that or 2 weeks after that, he calls me. He says, hey, I got good news for you. I said, what's that? He said, the building next door, the old Knuckleheads bar. I said, yeah. He said, it was for sale. I said, yeah, I knew that. He said, well, I talked the bank into giving it to you. What do you think about that? And I said, what am I going to do with it? He said, well, you're going to put a women's shelter in it. I said, I am. He said, well, yeah, that's what you said we needed. And he said, you know, you have a reputation of getting those kind of things done. So he said, I figured you're the one to get it. And so I said, well, thanks a lot. But it was a gift, and the bank was so gracious. They even paid for the taxes that were coming up for the next year. So it was no cost at all. It didn't cost us anything. And I mean, the building was in pretty bad shape when we got it inside. It's a good structurally sound building, but it just was full of a lot of stuff that needed to get hauled out. So we've spent money on a lot of dumpsters, and we still aren't done with that yet. We're still doing some demo. But then we found out we had to have a zoning change, and it was given to us in November. We found out about the zoning thing, I think the first part of the year, 2018. And I wanted to make sure I want to make sure everything was good. I didn't want to get started on something and then somebody say you can't do it. So we made an appeal to the zoning board to have it changed, and they passed it. I think there was 4 of them, 3 votes yes, 1 vote no. And so we started working on it. And then an appeal was filed, which can be by someone, and then until it could be settled in court. And it took a while because the court is filled up with a lot of cases. So they got to it, I'm sure, as soon as they could, but that was in June of last year. And so from June until just last week,
just a couple of weeks ago, yeah.
We were kind of on hold. We could still do some demo, which we still had some to do. We have a demo permit for that, but we couldn't really start any construction until the judge made a decision, which he did now, that we could proceed. So now we can.
What's the plan? How many units or rooms, or what do you think you're going to be able to do with it?
We plan on housing up between 10 and 15 women with their children if they have them. It will be a program more than a shelter. I don't like the word homeless, just like I don't like the word addict, because it's got a stigma kind of attached to it. And a lot of women, they just don't have any place to be. They're displaced more than anything. If they get burned out of their house, they get thrown out of their house. Yes, I know there are some that they have a drug addiction problem, or they have a domestic violence problem. Well, if they have a drug addiction problem, we're going to send them to a place. We're not going to keep them because we don't have the facility for that. They'll be sent or offered to be sent to a place where they can help them with their drug addiction. And of course, if they have a domestic violence issue, we'll walk them to Genesis because it's not very far from here. But if they're just homeless, or they don't have a place to stay, they're displaced, we hope we can keep between 10 and 15 of them there. There'll be 2 large sleeping rooms where they'll have beds. They'll prepare their own breakfasts and their own suppers, but they'll go to the free meals at lunchtime because they're all around here. They're within walking distance, which will help us with our budget. But immediately from the day one they walk in the building, we'll be aggressively working with them to try to, and with a lot of other agencies in town, wonderful agencies that I said Richmond has, to get them permanent housing, get their kids in school, get them employment or income, because our goal from the time we see them when they walk through the door is to get them someplace that's a permanent setting. They're not going to go back out to what they came out of. Okay. So our goal is to get them, and you know, it might be that, well, I've got a brother-in-law in St. Louis. Him and his wife said I could stay there, but I just have no way to get there. Okay, well then we'll work on trying to raise the money to get the bus ticket, get you to the bus station, get you to St. Louis. So whatever that is, and it could be I mean, no two things are the same, so it could be any situation. But whatever it's going to take to get them into a permanent situation, maybe they need more education, maybe they need, if they'll go with our program, they can stay there as long as they'll work with us and we can work with them to get the things they need to be able to get into this permanent place. It's called Refuge of Hope, by the way, and that's going to be the name of it, because that's what it is. It's a place where they can take refuge and also find hope. So we hope to get them plugged into a permanent life.
Do you have in your mind a timetable as to how fast you would like to be able to help these ladies and their families transition into whatever is next?
Yeah, again, it'll be obviously different because every case will be different. But the longest I could foresee would be less than a year. And that's what we plan on using the second story for. We're not really doing anything with the second story initially, but the program's going to be called Next Step program. And what they'll be able to do is stay, there's 4 apartments upstairs, and they'll be able to stay, and if they're still working with us, they've got a job, they've got some sustainability now. They're saving their money to be able to get a deposit for a house or a deposit for rent, or they're on the Habitat for Humanity list, or whatever the circumstance is. Well, we can now move them upstairs, and they can stay another additional 4 to 6 months upstairs rent-free, and still stay there until they get enough income saved to be able to get out on their own. So that's what the most I would think would be a year or less, and the least could be like the next day. If they have somebody they can go stay with, we'll try to get them there.
The idea that someone would ask you what Richmond needs, and your answer is a women's shelter. What made you say that? What are you seeing here in this community that became your answer?
Well, we see a lot of homeless women. So most others don't. And what's happening, and it's happening more now, is that people are sending them here. If they see them in their church, or one of them shows up on their doorstep, they'll tell them to go down to Rock Solid. And they've always done that. So I can't just tell a woman, a 25, 26-year-old woman who's standing in my church on a Tuesday evening after the meal's over at 6 o'clock that has no place to stay. I can't just walk away from that and say, well, I can't help you. Now, maybe some people can do that and go home and go to bed, but we can't do that. So we try to find a solution to that. And unfortunately, for the 20 years we've been here, the only solution we've had for that is, let's get you a bus ticket to Indianapolis. Because the bus station is 2 blocks or 3 blocks from a homeless shelter for women in Indianapolis. So they can take the bus to Indy and walk 2 or 3 blocks south, and they're at a shelter. I can't keep them here. If it's too late to get them on a bus, then yeah, we will pay for one night stay in a motel. But that's only with the stipulation that here's your bus ticket, and the next morning you're getting on the bus and going to Indianapolis. I would rather they stay here, but I know they're here because we see them. And statistically, if you're into statistics, 4 out of every 10 homeless folks are female. And the Hope House, I think, holds 20-some men every night, and sometimes they're full. So I know there's probably a minimum of 5, and probably more closer to 10 or 12, you could call them homeless, females, some of them with children, some of them with grandparents, in your town tonight, every night. And when it's warmer, I don't think about it as much, but when it gets down below 0, I can't help but think about it. When I crawl into my nice warm bed, I see where they sleep. They're sleeping in these abandoned houses. They're sleeping in abandoned cars. There's many of them slept out at the old hospital. Well, that's gone, so they can't sleep there anymore. Some of them are sleeping with other people that they don't want to be sleeping with, but they have no choice. They have no option. It's either that or they freeze to death. So is that happening in Richmond? Doesn't that just happen in third world countries? No, it's right here in your town. And a lot of people don't want to know that because I think it's because they don't want to have to deal with it. But down here you have to deal with it because it walks through your door. So I can't
But it walks through your door because you chose to be here. You chose to see it.
Yeah, I guess you could say that, but I mean, I could send them to somebody else, but I don't want to do that. If I can help them, I want to help them. And I mean, I can't say I know what it's like to be homeless because I never have been. Mm-hmm. But I can say I've sat and listened to enough people who are, that I certainly have a sense of what it is. It's a very insecure, scary place. And if you're female, it's just more insecure and more scary. So that's why I've told we got 4 or 5 people that are working on this shelter next door, the Refuge of Hope. I said 2 things I want this place to be. Number 1, I want it to be safe. So, you know, we're going to have, doors are going to lock at a certain time at night. There's going to be surveillance cameras out front and out back. It's going to be lit up like a Christmas tree. I don't want them to ever feel like anything's going to happen to them. It's going to have a sprinkler system in it. It's going to have a fire drill every week, so they're going to know what to do if there is a fire. So, you know, I want it to feel safe. And the other one was I want it to be colorful. I want it to be nothing drab. I don't want it to look like an institution. I want it to look like a home, you know. We have a lot of problems. Richmond has a major drug problem. Mm-hmm. Richmond has, because of that, we have a crime problem. And Richmond has a lot of vacant buildings. Not just downtown, they're all over the place. Yeah. So the reason you don't see homeless people is because there's a lot of places for them to stay. They're there. There's a guy he sleeps in a storefront just up the street every night, and it happens to be a storefront that's got a very deep entrance. And if you don't look as you drive by, you won't see him. And if you didn't know that's what it was, you would know that was him. But I know he's there, and I see him out there every day. He comes out from his little place he's hiding, and we have a group of guys, sometimes a couple of women that come in here in the morning. Every morning we're open and drink coffee, and there's a lot of them are crawling out from under sleeping bags out in the woods, or they're coming out of some of these houses a few blocks away, and just to get warmed up. And we've got gloves. We try to have gloves and hats and scarves on hand. If anybody gives us shoes, we always take them, because shoes are something folks that don't have a home they wear them out because they're walking all the time.
I'm not even sure how to ask this. If the people are here, is there a way to help more of them? You can never help 100%.
No.
Some people don't want help. Some people have mental issues and other things. Is there a way that is not being utilized at this moment that you think we might be able to help more of these folks?
Well, like I said before, there's a lot of agencies in town that do a lot of great things. Mm-hmm.
But we've got, and I'm not putting you on the spot, but we've got the agencies. They are doing some good work, but we still have more people than many of us probably think, that are hurting.
I would like to see these agencies, and there's been some efforts in the past to do this, but to come together and to connect together. I surely plan on doing that with the Refuge. In fact, I've already made a lot of phone calls. If you've got an agency that caters to anything that's a women's issue, I probably have already called you, because I want to involve you in that. And I think that if there was more of, there's a lot of collaboration, but we need more. And no one agency can do it all, and I don't try to. And everybody has a focus. And so we don't focus on drug addiction issues, even though that is an issue. We try to help people with it. We try to point them in the right direction, but we won't have that facility there either. But I work with people that do help with those things, and because we see those things. Mm-hmm. So I think more could be done. Some people have said it'd be great if we had a central location where everything was there. And that would be nice too, but I don't know that we're big enough of a town to have something like that. So I think if there would be more collaboration, and I don't know what it would take to do that. I don't know how that would look or how that would work, but hopefully maybe the Refuge of Hope can be a catalyst to be a focus of collaboration for women's issues. We can get everybody pulled together to do the most good.
As you look at the work that needs to be done, the money that'll go into a sprinkler system, cameras, blah, 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 do you have a timetable for when you hope Refuge is open?
Yes, last year. I wish it had been open last year because we had to help, I think, about a dozen women last year find a place to go, at least 12, probably more than that. But I hope, it depends on the money flow. I mean, right now we have some. It's going to run out pretty quick, but we'll do as much as we can do with what we have.
Okay.
And then if anybody wants to send us some for that, I mean, we will put it. That's the thing about Petra Project is no matter what donation you make, if you say, I want it to go to this, then I make sure it goes to that. So if you want it just to go to paint the rooms, then we will put it back and we won't spend it until we're ready to paint the rooms. But so, yeah, it depends on the money flow. But I hope this year, I hope that before winter, please, before it gets cold again, before November, December rolls around again, I would like to at least have enough of it done to be able to open it so some ladies can stay there.
What is Clint Belcher House of Recovery?
It's not created yet. It was intended, and it is intended. It's still on our timetable. It's named after my son-in-law.
Can you put any more on the? How big is the plate? Is it like a meat platter? I mean,
well, now, forgive me, but I didn't put the shelter on my plate. God put that on my plate, so that's on him. That's not on me. That wasn't really on my radar. So, but no, it's the third prong. Petra Project is three-prong. It's health and services and health education. It's food and meal education, food education, and it's also to help with drug addiction for men. And it's all Christ-centered. So it started out to be Petra House, is what it was originally. But my son-in-law Clint Belcher worked with me to try to get a program put together, and we had a lot of the groundwork laid for it. But then he got very ill and he passed away back in it was 10 years ago, 2009. And it kind of got shoved back on the back burner. So the door you saw that's got the glass that says it as you come in, we had hoped.
On the website.
Well, we've got a second story that 2/3 of it we haven't renovated yet. It's just sitting up there. So we hope to put it up on the second story. And it'll be a Christian-based, Bible-based drug addiction program, probably last 10 to 12 months, that works with some great material called life recovery material, and it's some material you can buy, and it's very good. It's Bible-based, and it'll operate with a lot of. Clint did a lot of good for a lot of addicts. Clint had been an addict at one time, and he worked out at Hope House for quite a while, and he knew what it took to get straight and stay that way. And so a lot of his philosophy is sewn into it, and it's all sitting in there in papers, on paperwork on my desk. And it'll start up again, but just right now, like you mentioned, I kind of got my hands full with a lot of other things, so it just depends on when it happens, it'll happen. When the door opens, I'll walk through it.
You've been down here for 20 years. You've started by ministering to people in the jail and trying to give them a place. So you have a lot of people coming in and out that have some history with law enforcement.
Yes.
As you think about this downtown area, and people are always going, is it safe, is it not safe, what's around, what has been your interaction with the law enforcement community in this particular facility over your 20 years here?
It's been great.
In and out, stopping unruly fights and all that other
we've
kind
had
of
to call them. I mean, we have had to call. I mean, we tell folks, we have 3 rules during the meal. They're posted in 2 different places, and I have to sometimes come out and verbally reiterate them. But one rule is you don't bring alcohol or illegal drugs into the facility. If you're caught with them, you will be asked to leave. Second one is you don't verbally or physically abuse anybody during the meal. If you do, you will be asked to leave. And the third one is you don't physically or verbally abuse my staff, or you will be asked to leave. And I say that usually at the bottom of it says if you don't like these rules, we reserve the right to allow you to eat someplace else. You know, you can eat someplace else, but you're not going to do it here. And if you do that, we don't get physical with them, but we've called the police, and I don't know how many times, several times over the years, we've had to. It was worse to be honest with you, when there was 2 bars that used to be on this block, one of them I now own, the building. But when they were open, it was
How does that sound?
Yeah.
One of the bars I own.
I don't own the bar. Strike that. I own the building. I don't even own the building. Petra Project owns the building. But anyway, when they were open, it was worse on this block. But since they've closed, this block has settled down quite a bit. There hasn't been. We don't have much trouble during the meals. Occasionally we do. But it usually just takes, hey, can you be a little quieter and just enjoy your food and leave? And folks will do that. So for the most part, 98% of the people that come in here for the meal or to the clinic, they're very decent, good folks that just are needy and they just need something. And they're not trying to cause trouble. So I know there's crime. There's crime everywhere in Richmond, and there is downtown, but I don't think it's any worse down here than it is anywhere else. If anything, it's probably not as much because this downtown is lit up better, and there are businesses down here. And I'd love to see. I am a strong proponent and supporter of more and more businesses downtown. I'd love to see every one of these stores fill up with a business. I'd like to see it like it was back when I was a kid, which is when it was really. I mean, there wasn't an empty storefront then. So, and I think it will. I think it. I think it'll happen.
What's been your interaction with most of the business community down here?
I've had good interactions with them. I've walked up and down the street over the last 20 years and tried to introduce myself to people. When new businesses open, I try to make sure I make a note to come see them. And I've had good relationships with most of them, I would say. I don't know how they feel about me, but I have no problem with them.
You're watching In Focus on Whitewater Community Television's WGTV Channel 11. I'm Eric Marsh, Executive Director of Whitewater Community Television, and been having a very nice conversation with Pastor David Eales of Rock Solid Ministries. Thank you for the time that you've given us today.
No problem.
I really do appreciate it. And I've joked with you, and obviously, yes, you and I have known each other
for a while,
for a long time. We don't get to spend a lot of time together, but it's always good to talk to you whenever I see you. And through the years, I've kind of very far behind. I'm nowhere near up front. Have kind of watched how this has evolved and changed and grown.
Yeah.
How does this, in your mind, as you look at this, and I know some of it is happening to you, how do you see this sustaining itself? How do you see this going? How do we keep this going? Because there is a need. There's always a need. No matter how good things get, there's always people in need. There's always people hurting.
Right.
There are always people,
always will be,
for lack of a better term, I guess, in the shadows. How do we handle that as a community? You get to talk to a lot of people. You've been through Reed, you've been through the jail. How do we as a community have discussions about those people who need our help? There's always the conversation that people don't want help. If they wanted help, they'd find a job. If they wanted help, and I saw the look on your face. You've heard those discussions.
Yeah.
You've heard those comments, and that's not always the truth.
No, it's not always the case. There are people that, there
are people who want to game the system, as it were.
There's jobs, obviously, right now at this particular time. There's several jobs available in Richmond. You could get one, probably, if you wanted one. But what people fail to understand is that the circumstances and the situation that has brought that person, whoever that is, to where they are, maybe they can't have one at that time. So, like I mentioned, it's difficult. You can't even look for a job if you don't have an address or if you don't have a phone number, if you have a felony. All these things hold you back. And because on an application they want an address, and you can't put down Hope House's address if you're looking for a job. So there's a lot of things. There's a lot of openings. There's a lot of opportunity in Richmond, but there's also a lot of opportunity for growth in the area of like you said, stop looking at people with a stigma. You know, if they're homeless, quit looking at them as derelict drunks that aren't worth the time or trouble, because that's not what they are. They're just like you are. They're not really any different. A lot of where they are has to do with some bad choices, but it's also things that they had no control over. And I've heard this before, almost everybody, and I could say this probably about most people in Richmond, is between 6 and 10 weeks away from jumping in a dumpster looking for something to eat if you don't have a paycheck for 6 to 10 weeks. Okay. And if you have a family,
well, you're going
to break into a store to rob.
The government shutdown,
yeah,
where people with a job, people had a job,
yes,
working day in, day out,
and bang, all of a sudden they don't have one.
And they didn't have one, and they needed a meal. Yeah. They needed some help.
And you saw wonderful reports about businesses opening up and giving away food. I thought that was great. Mm-hmm. And I think that would happen here. I think the thing we have in this town that I've noticed is we have two things. First of all, yes, we have a lot of folks that have a lot of need. But we also have a lot of folks in town that are very giving, very loving, very much want to help. I mean, Richmond's not full of stingy people. I would not call Richmond a stingy community at all, in any way. The people here in this town are very giving. So, but those people have to be able to trust the ones that are in between the two that will help. And over the years, and you know this, Richmond hasn't got a very good reputation with. There's been some organizations that have misused funds. There's been some organizations that have done this and done that, and it's kind of violated the trust of the folks that have, and the ones that have nots, to be able to connect them together. But I think that to keep it going, it's going. It needs more collaboration. Certainly, with an election coming up, as you mentioned at the beginning of the show, it needs a government. I'm not saying ours isn't in town, but there needs to be more and more of a focus on not how do we shove it away to where we can't see it, but how do we help it? How do we get these drugs out of this town? You know, arresting the drug dealers isn't going to fix the problem, because there'll be another one coming right behind them. So we're going to need to attack the addiction, and that's the person that's addicted. So we ought to be able to offer them a new life if they want it. So how do we do that? And I see a lot of movement in that area. In fact, I'm encouraged by what I'm seeing right now. Wow. In some of the sectors like Reed Hospital and some other organizations that are trying to work together, trying to help. You know, just a little over a year ago, we didn't have a detox center in Wayne County. Well, now we have 3. Well, that was a big step, because working out at Reed Hospital as a chaplain, I saw the struggle physicians were having with people that were coming in there OD'd and trying to figure out how are we gonna detox this young man or this young woman. There's no place to send them in Richmond, so they had to send them to Indianapolis or someplace. Well, now we have 3, and that to me was a big stride forward, as far as I'm concerned, to help the drug addiction, because you're helping the addict, and that's where you need to focus. The police are doing everything they can, but they can't keep up with it. You know, as long as the demand is there, the supply was going to keep coming in. So if we can get that under control, I'd love to see somebody come up with some great ideas about downtown to get it booming again. I'd love to see that happen. Get people more focused into coming into the center of town as a community, and I mean, Richmond's a good place to live. That's why I came. One of the reasons I agreed with God when He told me to come back here.
I would have loved to have heard that conversation if you hadn't.
It was a dilly. But agreed with God to come back here is because it is a good place. I grew up here. I mean, I love it here. So I'm on my wife all the time about, let's move to Texas. Let's move to Florida. I hate Richmond. But it ain't that I hate Richmond. I hate the climate. I don't like the winter times. But I like the people here. I mean, I've lived in different places, and I've visited a lot of places. I don't think there's a place within 500 miles of here that has as many giving people, because I see them. They give to us. I mean, there are a lot of giving people in this community. It's just trying to figure out how to get it all to work, and I'm doing what I can. I can't do it all. I'm just a high school educated man, so I'm not even that smart. But I do know that the people that I serve, I have learned over the last 20 years, are really no different than you and me. They're human beings. They have a lot of problems. Sometimes you sit there with your mouth hanging open thinking, how did you get here? How did you get to this place in your life? And it's complicated to try to get them to back out of it. But they are worthy of our attention. The Bible implores us. Jesus says, the poor you have with you always. So the Bible is, God directs us to help your fellow man. Help those that are less fortunate than you. We certainly have them here. If you help those that are less fortunate than you, you will prosper. So maybe those that aren't prospering aren't because they're not doing that. I don't know. I am. I can go home and sleep soundly at night, because I've done everything I can. I mean, I do everything. We do everything we can down here. We don't ever tell people, no, we can't help you. We try to do what we can to help them. So we need more places like that.
Good luck down here.
Thank you. I appreciate that in your prayers. So probably more your prayers than luck. But
you have that also.
That's cleared a way for us to start. I know the resources are going to come because God will bring them in, and it'll be a good place. I know there's some people that don't think so. I just hope over time they see that, for instance, when we moved in over here, there might have been some that think, oh no, another church downtown. But I think over the 20 years we've improved our location. We've certainly improved the property, and there's less crime on this block since we've been here. So, and I'd like to hope that we've helped somebody since we've been here, and that's not going to be any different over there. So,
Pastor David Eales with Rock Solid Ministry, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I appreciate the time.
Okay, don't be a stranger.
I won't be.
Okay.
Thanks for watching this week's episode of In Focus on Whitewater Community Television's WGTV Channel 11. A couple of things to remind you of. I want to remind you voter registration continues until Monday, April 8th. Voter registration at the office, 301 East Main Street, Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 4:30. Also, voter registration is available online, indianavoters.com, if you would like to check your voter registration. There is only one contested race this primary season, and we will have those two candidates speaking with us on Thursday, April 18th at 6 p.m. Join us for a live 90-minute conversation with primary mayoral candidates Dave Snow and Jack Cruz running on the Democrat ticket. And we will be taking your questions during that In Focus candidate forum along with our partners, the Wayne County Area Chamber of Commerce. FAFSA is going on, and if you want to get signed up and you need some help, there's a couple of opportunities in the next week. On the 5th from 12 to 6 at Centerville High School, and then on the 7th from 12 to 4 at Bethany Seminary. If you missed any part of this show, you can see it again tomorrow night, also twice on Saturday, twice on Sunday. It will also be available on our video on demand site, WGTV Online, and also you can hear the audio of the program Sunday mornings at 6 a.m. on G1013 and 100.9 ESPN Radio. Thank you very much for watching and listening. Have yourself a great day.